What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. I have a shop with my own comic books and all that, so please head to the links in the description below. Check out my work, support the channel, support what we're doing, especially if you like Supergirl. I think you'll love my Flying Sparks. I've been covering Supergirl books, gosh, for a couple years now, and I've gone through almost every Supergirl collected edition that exists. I finally made it up to the Rebirth era, which is the most recent era. There's about 7 more collections left. I haven't done the Silver Age omnibuses yet. I'm saving those for last because I figure those will be the funnest. But here we are. This is Steve Orlando and Brian Ching on the first volume here, and it contains Supergirl Reign of the Supermen, okay, which is Rebirth #1. I guess they had a whole Rebirth issues of this #1, and Supergirl 1 through 6. It's sure to appeal to the fans of the hit TV series. I loved the series first season, and then it really went off the rails. So let's see how this goes here, and if this is a big part of this. The first Rebirth issue is really interesting. We're set into a very standard-looking comic for, I'd say, modern comic sort of stuff. The layouts are pretty standard. We just have Supergirl. She's working with this, like, Department of Extraterrestrial Operations. I think they're called DEO or something like that in here. And, you know, her people who are, I guess, her foster parents in this sort of thing are a part of this. There's this Kryptonian werewolf thing that shows up, and he's bad. And Supergirl starts, and she's, like, being recharged in the sun and comes out of this. Now, I actually really love the design of Supergirl here. In the Rebirth issue, she looks great. The art's really good. Who did the art on this one? It was not the same person. It is Emanuela Lupacchino, who actually I usually like her work. I've seen some of her stuff before, and I'm always very happy with it. You can see she's very feminine and nice. I really would like to see this on Supergirl for the rest of it. Unfortunately, the art changes drastically, and I'll show you that in a second. Very different vibe than what you have here. And she brings him back eventually after she recharges in the sun, and that's about that as she then starts her life. And she's they mentioned that she's in high school as a junior, so about 17 here. Which, gosh, I mean, Supergirl's gone through so many iterations. They reboot her so often. They've done it. They did it twice. They did it once in the New 52. They did it right before the New 52. They had, like, a Supergirl who was Matrix before that. They had, like, the original Supergirl before Crisis. I mean, just so many different iterations. So her age drastically changes. She looks kind of like a fully developed woman here. And then, like, as soon as you turn the page, she suddenly turns into, like, a 12-year-old. I don't know what happened. But it's a very drastic change, and it's a shocker after you've been reading this and kind of figuring out what's going on here. So now we're into the Supergirl series by itself, and I mean, it's pretty neat art style. I do like the science fiction-y elements of it here. It's very much more cartoony than before. The odd part to me is, again, the design of Supergirl shifted, even though they say she's 17 still, to make her look like she's like 13, 14 instead. Now, you know, I like this sort of design. This kind of just appeals to me. I just think it's a little prettier in general, and it's just nice to look at. This is a little less so. You kind of get this, like, you know, attitude. I'm an attitude zoomer, you know, sort of vibe out of this whole thing. And, yeah, I don't know. You know, this style doesn't appeal to me as much. Storyline kind of continues a little similarly. So she's, like, traveling a train, and she's getting a, like, internship at, whatchamacallit, like, the Daily Planet under, what's her name, Kat something. I can't remember her last name. She's the same lady as the show. So the show obviously had her, like, doing Monster of the Week fight for this government agency. And then that's what they're trying to set up here, and then have her interning at the Daily Planet like that. And that's exactly what they're setting up here. So they're definitely trying to ape the show and just make sure it's, like, kind of in line with that. And that's actually really sensible from a marketing perspective because, again, like, people watch the show, they check out Supergirl, it's kind of similar. That makes a lot of sense. But again, like, they de-aged her to make her look like 12, 13 here, even though it says she's 17 right here. It says she's a junior. It just kind of doesn't, Cat Grant, that's her name, kind of doesn't work. on that level. It just doesn't make a ton of sense. And it's there's some of these panels, like I know this is like a Japanese aping style, but like I don't love when they just like leave out the detail like this. It's not my favorite thing. Other than that, I mean, the pencils are all right. I mean, the proportions are all right. A lot of like impressionistic, like lack of detail, as you can see. Again, another one there. There's you know, her face doesn't have a ton of details there. Lots filled in by the colorist, as you can see. Very, very odd choices. Lots of standing around and talking. And lots of her being sad. She doesn't feel very super. And that always bothers me in modern comics too. Like, I mean, they always try to like, quote, deconstruct the characters. So it's like, she's Supergirl. So to deconstruct her, she won't be super. Yes. But basically she gets kidnapped by Cyborg Superman, who is in this reality her father, who's turned into a cyborg. There's this Argo City that's kind of survived from the superpowered whole deal before this. And she ends up just having to deal with that. Of course, you know, they have the token black guy because they have to introduce, you know, minority in every single thing just to make everything look exactly the same in its, quote, diversity. That's how it works. And then she ends up at this Argo City. And this is her mother resurrected as a robot. This is a pretty cool storyline. I like, as much as I've kind of been poo-pooing it, her mother showing up as a robot and having Argo City, like, which is where she's from on Krypton, show up as this like asteroid that's like hurtling towards Earth, and like there's all these super like cyborg things showing up on that as a threat, and they're gonna like basically eat the souls of humans to get their energy and like take over as like this big cyborg population. That's a pretty cool plot. So kudos to Steve Orlando for that, as much as I'm not in love with the art style so much. And some of it's all right. Like, it's more of a stylistic thing, I think, than a talent level thing. So this is pretty cool. We get this cool double page spread here. And she eventually, you know, has this like moment with her mother and all that, who's not really her mother. And, she rescues everybody, and there's Cyborg Superman, and she has to deal with the robot. She saves her token coworker, who doesn't realize it's her because she has brown hair. When she's out of her identity here. And then she finally like gets this last issue where like everything converges on Cyborg Superman here, and she gives a little speech, and it kind of ends. So satisfying ending to the story. And this is a very classic Supergirl drawing that's like done with this new style of art. So that's a cool way to end the volume. And here's the guy that she fought in the first issue, who she's like, or is this her father? Okay, she's got her father trapped now too. She's trying to save all these Kryptonians who are problems in here, and she's like, okay, I can save him. Pretty neat setup. Now, the whole Argo City Cyborg Superman thing, I would have honestly like done like more of a thing where she's reminiscing about her past, her father, for the first arc or so, and had a different villain and all that before getting into Cyborg Superman's really her father, and now he's a cyborg mother. Because if you're a new reader, and this is supposed to be a jumping on point for Rebirth, right? All that lore and all that stuff, you don't care about her father and her mother and all that at this juncture in things. You don't have the setup to like know who she is and know what all this Argo City stuff is. Now, if you're a longtime reader and you're coming to this, like, I know all the lore behind that, so I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But for a new reader, I don't think it's quite as good. The art style was not something that appealed to me, but the story flowed pretty fine. It was pretty fast-paced. There was a lot of, I'd say, exposition towards the beginning of it. I really liked the Rebirth story, and I really liked that artist. So that, that shift was a dramatic change real quick. But overall, this is actually one of the more solid Supergirls that I've read. So I'd call this like a 7.5 out of 10. All right. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll be back soon.